Now let's move on to Week 7 predictions of the NFL season. The first game is the Jets and the Pats. And this is a very emotional game. Obviously, Revis returning back to play against his old team for the hated rivals, the Patriots. So the emotions be running high. The Jets did look good last week, but the Pats have looked better the last 2 weeks. And I think they should win convincingly. The Falcons and Ravens, I think this is probably the biggest mismatch of the entire week. I think the Ravens should win by double digits. The Titans at the Redskins, I'm predicting Tennessee to win this. The Redskins have looked horrible the last few weeks. And ever since Griffin's injury, they've got no real legitimate offensive identity. And I think Tennessee will not dominate. It is in Washington, but I think they'll walk away with a win. And that should be a good piece of momentum for them. But they've been building towards this. They've been competitive, and I expect I expect the Titans' victory. Seattle at St. Louis. I think this is a danger game for the Seahawks, and it's an absolute must-win if they plan on winning that division. The Rams are the weak link in that division, so I expect them to not get a victory at all in that division. So if the Seahawks lose this game, this is critical in terms of them actually getting out of that division, or not even winning that division, but just getting out as a wild card. The St. Louis's defense was very good in critical moments against the 49ers, and Seattle's offense has been stuttering all year. And I wouldn't be shocked if there's an upset, but I am picking St. Louis. The Browns at the Jaguars, Cleveland will win this, and I'm convinced they're going to make the playoffs, and I fully expect a dominant performance, especially by that defense. The Bengals at the Colts, this could be a match of a week. Obviously, there's the Chiefs and Chargers as well as the Panthers and Packers, which will be good games. But I think Cincinnati versus Indy will be good. Both have very talented offenses, but they really haven't lived up to their expectations this year. I expect that to change, though. I expect this to be a shootout, and the Colts to squeak home in a thriller. Minnesota at Buffalo, that's a bit of a dud matchup. I'll say the Bills, just because they're at home and they played a lot better last week against New England. I mean, New England was on fire, especially Brady. But, the Buffalo was competitive for a good portion of that game. Miami at Chicago. I'll go with Chicago strictly because it's at home. Miami has been competitive as well, but I don't think they can go on the road in Chicago and win. New Orleans at Detroit is... that'll be an interesting game. Look, the Saints are absolutely desperate, and they've been in that position a few times over the last few years, and that's really when they're at their best. If they lose this game, consider them done. This is also a huge game for the Lions, but despite them being at home, I will be taking the Saints just because I'll take Breeze over Stafford any day of the week. If you switch those two players around, obviously Detroit's a much better team with Breeze. But so I guess it's a very long-winded way of saying I think Breeze has a less capable supporting cast than what Stafford does. But yeah, I'll go with the Saints just because they've got Breeze. Panthers at the Packers. Look, the Panthers have responded since their beatdown by Baltimore, and they've shown some very encouraging signs. The Packers have been inconsistent pretty much all year, and they are on a hot streak. This will be a very exciting game, and the Packers passing game versus the Panthers defense will decide it. Well, that sounds funny. I keep talking to Panthers and Packers; they sound very similar. I'll just refer to them as Carolina and Green Bay. I think Green Bay at Lambeau. That's who I'll be picking. But I'm not that confident with that pick. And if there's going to be, a game that I wouldn't bet the house on, that would be the one. The Chiefs at the Chargers. This should also be a great game. But honestly, Phillip Rivers is on a completely different level right now. And I'll be going with the Chargers. And Arizona at Oakland. Wow, that's really this could, if we're talking about upsets, Oakland is 0-5. Arizona is 4-1. based off those factors alone, like those records alone, this should be a monumental mismatch. The Palmer return should make an interesting storyline, but I'm actually going with the Raiders to cause the upset. They played very well last week against San Diego. They put points up against San Diego. And yeah, like the speed of the Oakland offense should actually give some problems. And obviously, you had those coaching changes, and we should. This is when we're starting to see like the change in the culture I talked about in the last segment. When we were talking about the culture differences, and how like it's best to get rid of that culture as soon as it becomes toxic. Now you got a fresh culture. Everyone's playing for their jobs. No expectations. This is a huge thing. Arizona has not been a good team. They haven't. One of the difficult things about being a good team and a consistently good team is not beating the other good teams. It's taking care of business against teams that don't have much to lose. Oakland has virtually nothing to lose. Their season is done. They've already fired their coach. They're 0-5. They've got no chance of even getting a winning record, really. They have to finish the season out 8-3. That's not going to happen. But I do think they will win. It is at home. I will take Oakland. Yes, I am crazy. I'm not really. But that's my upset of the week. Giants at Cowboys. Similar situation. Look, a lot of pressure is on Dallas to back up their brilliant performance in Seattle. Eli has always given Dallas problems, and I expect that to happen again if he gets time in the pocket. But that's a huge if based on what Philly did in their pass rush last week. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Dallas will win comfortably, and that defense will be dominant. San Francisco at Denver. This in terms of stature, this is the biggest game of the week. It's not even close. And it was very nearly the Super Bowl matchup last year. San Francisco has yet to find that gear that they've had in previous years. Denver is brutally tough at home. I will be going with Denver, but as I was saying, San Francisco hasn't had their backs against the wall. They will be tested, and this is the ultimate gauge for them. If they can raise their game, even at a loss, that might be beneficial coming down the stretch. And then Houston at Pittsburgh. Guys, is this really the Monday night game? This is horrible. Look, both these teams are heading to the bottom of their respective division by the end of the season. I will be going with Pittsburgh just because they're at home, and Roethlisberger is far superior at the quarterback position. But really not confident, and my care factor is 0. I won't even be watching that game.